Welcome back, everybody, to the LCS Challengers League. Still got another series, and it is our super heavyweight smackdown that we saw at the beginning of the day. Supernova going up against Fear. And gentlemen, we're hoping that this game is going to be a little closer than what we just saw between these two. Mazel, I mean, what are we to expect here?
At this point, we hyped up that first one so much between the two. I think we just keep it calm.
Yeah.
We just go cricket style.
Relax.
There's nothing important here. We're not going to get any blood. We're not going to get kills. We're not going to get
Nobody
crazy
will fight
one-on-ones. I'm just stating all the things I want to see in this series because I think it is going to be a bloodbath. I think both these teams showing a lot of promise in the recency.
Yeah, these are two of the teams who like to throw down in those early minutes, which is why I like watching them very much, because if you don't do anything for like 7 or 8 minutes, I'm sad. I'm not casting LCK. What's going on?
Wait. Why are you sad? That's the perfect time. That's usually a color caster's dream. You get to set up the game. Your play-by-play is not talking. That's like
put on the spot.
Nah. I'm not like you other color casters. I'm all about the hype.
Wow.
Let's go.
Talk about some pick-me attitudes. Supernova. Let's take a look at that roster coming up. We've got Quacker and Music. When we were looking at this roster, Music, the big standout, a jungler coming all the way over from Europe, playing in a couple of the regional leagues, now here, taking names after a single split in the qualifiers.
Love the highlight of Music. I think getting to hear his confidence, but see it on the Rift as well has been great.
Yeah.
The confidence from Quacker in his interview was awesome. My eyes are on Trevor versus his old team, man. There have been so many conversations of what is going on with Fear since Trevor left them. And I think we've seen a lot of that cohesion come alive for Supernova from the leadership that we know this guy provides. So I love to see Supernova turning it on, but also having confidence behind it, saying, people put us down at the bottom of the list. We don't deserve to be there. We deserve to be in the conversation.
All right, cool. We can move straight on over to the other opposite side here. Cincinnati Fear, who coming in, we had big expectations for this roster. Maybe week 1 not going exactly to plan. I'm thinking of that very first game up against FlyQuest. Yeah. Very sad about that one.
Yeah.
Beatdown.
Yeah, so this is a team that I think are finally starting. I say finally, but it's literally the second week where they are starting to show some of that potential we talked about. Perry talked about in his interview yesterday as well. It is that bit of an adjustment now that Trevor is no longer on the team. They all wanted to play together, but things didn't pan out the way they hoped for. But he brought over JJ. They played together on Dignitas Academy when Perry and him got second place at Proving Grounds last year. And we're starting to see that team cohesion come back, and we're starting to see some flickers of the brightness that was Cincinnati Fear in spring this year.
Ooh.
And I think on the other side of things, obviously Trevor being gone is a huge thing, but Faisal being gone from Fear is also huge. And Philip coming over and trying to fill a bit of a space that Faisal had left, and trying to also be that kind of combo with Perry. Perry is a jungler who wants to be in the front of things. He wants to be leading the charge and have support behind him, just like we were talking about in our last series. So I think that continues to be super important, and for Philip to kind of continue to mesh with the team.
Yeah, so far, the early weeks have not been very kind. He's been playing more of those supportive roles, so hopefully now at the end of week 2, they're getting their act together. We got some clips here to take a look of Supernova and how we think that they should be able to find success here in the series.
Supernova are so interesting to me as a team just because, one, we shout out Music for being that aggressive early game jungler, which, this is a meta for those junglers to set up the rest of the map, and there are a lot of times where he steps up. Even though things don't always work for Supernova, when they're on, they seem to team fight with some of the upper level teams in this league. I think the one thing that stood out to me too is that second game versus Maryville, I believe it was, where they had a great team fighting composition. Sketch was putting DPS out from places I didn't even know DPS could come from on his Sivir pick, and they managed to clutch out a pretty convincing second win.
Yeah, that was a pretty clutch win, like you were saying, but on the opposite side for Fear, it's a team that we expect to go very far into the playoffs going in, and here in week 2, they still need to make a name for themselves. They still have to crawl up the standings. They're on the bottom half of them, and in a pretty short league, it is 8 teams that make playoffs, but this is a team that went incredibly far last split.
Right.
Yeah. I specifically wanted to highlight JJ coming into this one. I think he provides so much experience at his role, but it was also not something we necessarily expected to see him on Fear. So we get a couple highlights here, some early proactivity, but it's also some moments in these fights where he knows exactly where he needs to focus, and it's playing peel back for the team. It's finding a lot of the engage to combine over there with music, rather for the jungle with Perry to go into music for this series, because that is where we find JJ really fitting the puzzle piece that is this roster.
And while JJ, tons of experience, did take a break, is coming back into competitive. He has a pretty good track record recently, but definitely, I think, a little bit more of a humble guy when we look at the rest of this team. We have got, of course, we saw it in the Super Heavyweight SmackDown, but both Shochi and Music, they have been not shy to spare words, to mince words with each other. We're going to take a look at some trash talk between these two.
Absolutely, let's start some drama.
Number 1 in the jungle, we got Music. I don't care that you played in Europe, you're a fraud.
I mean, that's just him reflecting, right? Frauds usually call other people frauds, right? So, I mean, it is what it is. We're going to play them next week, and then we're going to expose him for the fraud that he is, It is what it is. Big words. He has to just show up now, or, he's a fraud.
Frauds everywhere. Fraud, you're a fraud. He's a fraud. They're all frauds. No, I love the trash talk. I love the back and forth. This is the kind of stuff that we really want to have in a competitive setting, just to see some fun, see some fire, give it away.
Wow. I mean, if everybody's frauds, then no one's a fraud, really. Everybody's just being able to get in there. We got to be careful, guys. We can't just be calling everybody fraudulent so far in this league. But now they get to prove it. This was a week ago that we got to see this interview. Now both of them are going to be looking to try to find something, try to make something of this series. And it doesn't get much better than this. This was the one that we prepared for with all that fun content from Deserux. And now it begins. Supernova versus Cincinnati. Fear. Who will take it away? Who will start this first game? Gentlemen?
All right, we're going to go ahead and take it from you as Supernova on the blue side. We got Fear on the red side. If you didn't see before we came over, make sure you spam it in chat for both these two teams, SN or Fear as well. See how your votes end up as we get into this now, though. Priority lies where we've seen it most in this meta. What meta picks are banned away? Do we get the handshake of this Yumi combo, or the Emilio of Elio's combo, and things along those lines? Because when we have talked about these teams so much, it's a lot about how supports affect the matchup elsewhere than the bot lane. So maybe a little bit more of that give to some engage heavy supports.
So these two teams are funny because they ban slightly more unorthodox things. The Cassante makes sense, but given the broken stuff that's up and available, I still am not convinced it's a first rotation ban. But this is Quacker we're talking about. And of course, we have the Seraphine, a big thing Fear have been playing last split and this split. So it's a lot of these more targeted bans like LeBlanc for Shochi.
It made it through one game.
Yeah, and then they're like...
First game that they played, Fear. It didn't get banned away. Every game since then, Seraphine's the first ban against them every single time. So I love to see it. Also, the throwback to Quacker's play of the week, contested play. Got second, of course, but got the big play of the Cassante, so give some respect over there. The LeBlanc ban for the static ship build, you got to do it. So there's just a lot of pieces you got to take off the table. We haven't seen focus towards those supports just yet. We had that Wukong ban over there by Supernova, and then we had the Zeri and the Nico ban by Fear.
Zooming out a little bit, these are two teams, when we look at the standings every time, we see them slowly start to crawl their way up and up as far as they can manage. Now they're at 4 and 6, despite after week 1 having some, I'm just going to say it, abysmal records. And now you see them getting these clutch wins like we talked about in the pregame. And now, unfortunately, they have to meet, and it's the end of week 2. One of them, or maybe both of them, are going to be getting some wins. Maybe we do see an even split.
And we do see it as, I just want all the players to have fun.
Oh, pick a side. Boo.
I really do just want to see both teams executing well on the map. And it starts off with Supernova grabbing the Vi, something we haven't gotten to see because it's just banned away every time. Usually it's a pick that you want to take into a Zeri comp, but that's not going to be the case this time. They just want that forward aggression. And it's the Emilio that comes through for Fear.
I haven't seen much Lucian from Manui, but he's an AD carry player. Maybe he can lock that one in. That is a really, really good bot lane duo right now. The best pairing with Emilio at the moment. And that aside, a question that we had overall for Music was that, can he show us jungler picks other than the Vi? He had a good Wukong game yesterday, but now he is on that comfort where he is so good at getting on top of these AD carries. And it does mean that, especially with Zeri out of the picture, picking a low mobility carry like Jinx Aphelios, Fear might be sweating a little bit with that one.
I do love the opt-in here, though, from Perry. We've heard from him. He wants to be the kind of sword that leads Fear forward, and he will be maybe not a sword, but a bow in their right direction here with the Kindred. And I think that lock-in's really big just for the direction of Fear, but it is the Lovers duo bot lane, so a lot of safety given over, but also engage potential for Trevor.
For sure, it's a really strong level 1 that we've seen time and time again there, and Sketch and Trevor will be the ones to have it for them. And Fear now just need to round it out. Surely an 80 carry pick is coming through at this point, and whatever that one is going to be, whether it's Aphelios, Lucian, you are going to have a pretty strong pairing in your own right as well. But actually, they're just going to
take the Gragas away so you can't get the Lambs of Spite messed up.
Yeah, fair enough. That ends up being a pretty solid takeaway, but it does open up the 80 carry pool to be pinched a little bit. I mean, the Xayah is already out of the picture, something Manui is fine at, and an Aphelios, which has been a comfort for him, is likely almost certainly going to be off the board.
I could see that. I could see that focus for sure. Like those two bans would be huge priorities, but maybe they want to try to go. There's the Aphelios at least. Because there are still a lot of options, right? I feel like you can still have the Jinx, you can still have the Lucian if you want it. A couple things to go through there, but it is the split focus from the solo lanes in Fear's second phase of bans with the Olaf towards Cracker and the Ahri over here towards Robbie Bob.
Yeah, and even though the Ahri is the best combo, you still have that option there for Robbie Bob to go for something like the Syndra. I actually think it's looking pretty good here, but overall, in terms of rounding out these comps, you have a clear frontliner for Cincinnati Fear in the Gragas, whether it's Shochi or Philip, who is going to be piloting it. And I like this. You pick the Lucian, you leave the Gragas as a question mark. Who knows where it's going to be going, and you secure yourself. It's broken bot lane. Honestly.
And you can just look at what you want to get counterpicked for at the end of things. So this is definitely on Supernova's side of things to figure out what kind of combo they want with the Vi. I typically want to get something that, especially for Robbie Bob, combines well with music to get those 2v2s going, to have a little bit of a late game situation for Sketch and Trevor. I do like the Scion here. I do wonder, though, how this matchup will go if you can counterpick towards it. But we've seen Scion actually rise in a huge prominence, at least here in NACL.
Hear me out. Philip, play Gwen. Oh, play Gwen. It goes so hard right now. Shochi is that player we know who's so flexible, plays so many different kind of mid lane champions. He's had Gragas games. It would look so good. You already have the health as well. Going for something like a Gwen or something that can... You want one of two things. Gwen is preferred because it's really good, like anti-dive, but also something is a tank to be able to absorb some of this pressure. Oh, come on. Let me see it. Let me see it.
It is just a really strong pick, as well as a really nice setup for Philip. It'll be locked in for Fear. So we got our comps here. We need to try to get some setup for both junglers looking early, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, both of these junglers are going to have a good amount of impact. My eyes are on music because you're playing the Vi. Yuji kind of talked about it with the Kazakhs, where if you don't do anything, Kindred becomes kind of OP. Well, this applies here too, because once you get that first item, the second item, you stack so much health, you're going to be really hard for this comp to take out of the picture, especially because Philip did lock in the Gwen. So it's going to be that frontline threat, can use that Hallowed Mist to be able to eat up some of the pressure.
Yeah, and as we're going to be getting into this one, it is a huge matchup for both sides to finish out week number 2. They're both sitting at 4-6. We've got Trevor versus his old team in Fear. We've got Supernova, who are trying to prove all of the doubters wrong, and we have heckin' drafts to get us into game number 1. I have been waiting all weekend for this super heavyweight smackdown, and hopefully it's gonna live up to the occasion as we get onto the rift for game number 1 of Supernova versus Fear. We're looking at these jugglers, we're looking at the trash talk that came before, and Shochi wanting to own up if they do end up drawing to this would-be fraud that he said of music.
That's right. He's putting up, saying if we drop a single game, he's going to tier 1 sub to music. So this is a declaration that he's going to 2-0 Cincinnati Fear are going for that 2-0, and I like their chances here in this game one. I like the composition they have. A really strong, aggressive bot lane to match how strong the Xayah Rakan can be early. You have ways to set up ganks in the mid lane, in the bot lane, for Perry to be able to get marks, get ganks off, and just continue to scale into that late game. Cincinnati, or rather a Supernova, they're going to need to be really active in this early game. I'm looking at you, Music. You got to live up to the trash talk yourself. If Shochi is really that fraud, you're going to be able to take him and Fear out in this early game.
We'll see what happens with them. But if you are buying your time, you know what you can do while we're waiting to see action go. It's use some emotes in bottom lane. Maybe you're looking at first blood emotes or things along those lines. You want to find something cool. Well, you got to subscribe because then you get a huge amount of different cool emotes that Moofy created for our league. Make sure you subscribe. You get 50% of the revenue to teams and players, and you get access to cool emotes, and you support the community. But as we look at the support in bottom lane, I think the conversation still always comes down to the difference we've seen from Fear since Trevor left, and some of that leadership we've actually seen shine through for Supernova here. There is a difference, and I think both these guys, JJ on the opposite side, but Trevor himself will have a big influence on this game.
That's right. JJ is that player, again, brought over by Perry from his time on Dignitas Academy in 2022 summer. That second ground Proving Grounds finish that we like to bring up when we talk about Perry as a player, and even just transitioning onto that point, Perry, we got an interview with him last night. He continues to want to be that player who can be the carry for his team, be that leader, especially now that Trevor, who they weren't able to play with this split, is now on Supernova. And although Perry has made strides towards being that kind of player, he still says that he's very hungry to continue developing, continue growing. He's just a highly motivated player.
The Scythe of the Reaper is already looking. Perry was going for a bit of an invade onto Music, but cannot find any vision early. Didn't have any prior set, but maybe actually looking for a bit of a delayed gank onto mid lane onto Robbie Bob. And this connection we saw in first series was so huge, and getting the Gragas off the ground, that will be the flash burned on a very immobile mid laner in the Syndra.
And this is something I love when junglers do. You pick these low mobility champions like Cassiopeia, Syndra, Victor. And my immediate thought in draft is like, oh, you know, me personally, I wouldn't take that. I would immediately gank mid on repeat. And now that the flash is gone for Robbie Bob, I want to see Perry there in these next couple of minutes.
JJ was looking at a bit of a move, but got moved around the other way. Had to come rejoin Manui, but they actually got a little bit of a speed up from the campfire. And get some decent damage back onto Trevor on the other side. So 3v3's been rampant on the bottom side, but he got a Mark spotting for Perry on the other side, so he's going to go ahead and book it that way.
Yeah, and you're already seeing him start to get that bottom scuttle, and we'll be just looking for the double scuttle. Of course, Robbie Bob will lay down a ward, and it's worth noting, Music has gotten the recall off and has the double longsword. If he gets here, he's gonna have the better stats. So Perry has the smite, needs to burst this down as quickly as possible and just get off the map.
Easy does it for the Kindred early on.
Doesn't even have the smite, my bad.
It doesn't even need it. It's the big mark. You saw Robbie Bob just trying to be a little bit of a nuisance there. Bot lane, though, every time we've checked back in, somebody's at low health and having to back. Sketch will have burned that heal. We got the flash ignite also burned from Manui on the other side.
I mean, the level 1, really good for Xayah Rakan. Every other level, Lucian Milio all day. We're seeing that come through. Sketch has to back off on that's a big wave. And he's going to lose all of these minions, this gold and XP. So even though it cost Manui his flash, this is a pretty big lead he's earned for himself in the bot lane alongside JJ.
And you foreshadowed a little bit how devastating this 2v2 can get if the Lucian Melio get ahead. You just get so much. I mean, the Nami was always really nice, right? We've seen that combo for so long, but I actually really do like the Melio combo because it gives a little bit more sustainable damage to the Lucian. So got to keep an eye on that. Now that we have dragons spawning on for both sides and another mark on the table for Perry, I wonder if they're going to try to utilize for Fear this priority they have in lane to set up some vision around this early neutral objective.
Yeah, they have Scuttle Vision. They might be able to drop some as well via JJ, who's already looking for a roam timer. We don't care about dragons as Fear's comp. You want to scale, you're playing for late game, you're going to be a problem. So my eyes, as always, are going to be on that Rift Herald. And I like that JJ is still moving around the map, getting this information, and now that they know music is on this side of the map, does mean that the Supernova are almost certainly going for the Herald. Oh, Shochi.
Robbie Bob getting the bait out just a bit. Trevor has shown up, big engage, and music follows it. Power Unleashed, not enough. That campfire comes up clutch from JJ. He didn't even have much mana left after that either.
And look at that, with this passive, with that heal from the Milio, Shochi has a surprising amount of health, but now level 6 top.
They're going to just get the tussle from Quacker and Phillip. I don't think he goes down here. Maybe one more snip. That means he is out, not even using that unstoppable onslaught yet. But mid lane was that big moment, and a couple big summoner spells burned, but big pressure back from Supernova, who have been a little bit quiet so far.
It's much needed. We need Fear to start hearing the music, and music has made his way back to this mid lane, but the scatter of the week will miss. And this is a pretty big deal because this bit of time spent by music not picking up the dragon and not securing a kill means Perry has that opportunity to farm his bot side camps, which were level 1 by the way, because of the invade that he went for. So music, little bit of time wasted. Perry is able to kind of catch back up. Doesn't bode very well for Supernova's early game.
Oh, Music's trying to take this so he can get the mark away from Perry. Looks like Perry will just have to give that one up. So another mark denied. And actually really good movement from Supernova. I feel like when you're against a Kindred, you do have to be on top of the ball where these marks are spawning. It gives you a little bit of an avenue to know where he will be looking to. But it's still something important to have that movement from your lanes to capitalize on it.
Absolutely. It's so important, like Yuji said. You need to do something against this Kindred in the early game. And speaking of doing something, Manui and JJ, they're getting things done in this bottom lane, Lennon. This 20 CS lead coming through here, this constant pressure of Sketch and Trevor under the turret. And this is, not only is this combo so strong overall, but the Lucian makes it so Manui is not afraid to auto under turret, can easily use that relentless pursuit, just like that, to dodge the grand entrance from Trevor. It's so good, man.
And we actually see the cast flashed out of by Robbie Bob.
Nice.
So he'll be burning that flash on cooldown pretty much at this point. And Fear definitely know that and want to kind of capitalize on it. Rift Herald did spawn like you had said earlier, and it's started up by Perry.
This is a little dangerous. Level 6 is across the board, but Shochi used his ultimate.
Shochi's locked down. That scatter of the week on the back end was huge, and one more knockup. No, Shochi, he might get out of here. He gets the healing down, but there's the unstoppable onslaught. The Lambs of Spite had come out there to save Perry's life. At least Music getting very low. Music just goes down to Phillip. Snip, snip, baby, as the needlework's starting to stitch them together. We get the trade back. We get first kills. We get all the things we wanted here. 8:45 into the game.
Yeah, it was a little dangerous to attempt that Herald there, but Fear end up getting 1-for-1 in this situation, and it's big that Perry doesn't fall in this scenario. He ends up picking up the mark because they take Music out of the picture, and he was the one hit up with the Hunter's passive. And of course, because of the red buff and some sweet, sweet jungle privilege, Perry is able to get back on the map as they rotate the Lucian Milio up.
Shochi just caught out in transition here. Leads to all this decision making.
You know Quacker has first move, so that pathing is very bold. Even though he falls, Quacker has to ult forward. Phillip pops the ghost to get some damage in. And of course, the Milio, so cool, manages to ensure Perry doesn't die in this situation, being the biggest part of that one, in my opinion.
The amount of circles that Fear has right now, it's mind-blowing to me, honestly. They got circles that go in, they got circles that go out, they got everything you could want. If you're a Venn diagram fan, and Breezy, it's time for Shochi to face the music, like we were saying before. So, interestingly enough, we do have to have an answer from music for all of this Venn diagram making that Fear's going to have.
I was going to say, facing the music, but I'm not sure Supernova like this song right now, as it's still very much the praises of Cincinnati Fear and what they've been able to do in this early game. Dragon hasn't gone either way, and again, Fear love that. They're chilling, they don't mind. Dragon is just an afterthought for them. It's about collecting more of these marks for Perry, as you can see him managing to pick one up, it looks like. Oh, and a red buff.
All right with 2 so far. Music will not get caught out there in the end. We actually have some pings coming over from Perry, who will start up this dragon. So far, objective prominence from Fear.
Yeah, you have control over the map. So now, when there's nothing else to do, it's like, oh, okay, let me get some of these extra stats. As Trevor is here to get a good look-see, take a gander, as you might say, Vazelle.
I knew they would be here. I know them. They would make this decision to be on Dragon.
Hey,
see, look at that. I was right.
Music.
I don't think that's how Trevor sounds. Minui's going ham, though. And they get the double knock up the wombo. Sketch flashes and gets the kill, too.
Okay, props to them. I was skeptical at first, but I didn't realize. Hold on.
Whoa. You got an engage down. Minui goes for the ham kill. Flashes are coming out everywhere, but Sketch gets another one for Supernova.
That's still the 2-for-1, and it costs Shochi his teleport to help make that play happen. Sketch manages to pick up 2 kills on the Xayah. I was skeptical, but Perry didn't have the Lamb's Respite up yet. It actually just came off cooldown a couple seconds after he died, which is a feels bad. Really big props to Music for keeping time of that and recognizing they had an opportunity to make a play.
Philip using that needlework in top lane just to be a bit of meaner towards
you can't have
Cracker.
those.
Yeah, you're not allowed. You're not allowed. We're going to take a look back at this one and just really good heads-up play from Supernova.
Right, and the Ultra Mega Fire Kick cancels the first Vault Breaker, but when you get displaced like that, you're able to use it again pretty quickly, as you can see. And it just means that Music was able to get in there, use the cease and desist, and even though Shochi was able to help secure a kill, this still all came of Supernova.
No, I love it. Shochi just looking for the little moment on the Music to try to make good on the trash talk earlier on. But it is, in the end, a bit of an advantage for Supernova. Maybe not in gold, but just in these fights consecutively. Now we got to look back on that, though. Reset's coming out because we don't have another objective for a while. It feels like Supernova were very willing to work around that because, again, their composition when it comes together looks really strong. That single target damage is what they will be looking for. And now you're going to have a little bit of sputtering on that.
Yeah, so it's going to be really important to keep an eye on the cooldowns there. That ultimate there from Music, and of course Parries with the Lamb's Respite is going to be a big, oh my god.
A little bit of protection from that Feather Storm for Sketch. We'll get him out of there. Dicey situation, though, as another plate goes to Minui.
In this bot lane, they've been keeping an eye, using this combo very, very well. And it's earned them a lot of gold. And speaking of, Perry's going to drop the Herald mid lane. Shochi will be able to stay and pick up some of it, but maybe not the most ideal play that Cincinnati Fear were hoping for. They still find themselves in a slight gold lead, and all things considered, especially with what Philip's doing in the top side, this game state is still good. So much is on Supernova, keeping the pace up, using Music's ultimate to take either Perry or Minui out of these team fights. And that's why that Lamb's Respite is going to be so important in these coming minutes.
And now that we're getting to a state where bot lane is a little bit more chaotic, we're seeing Trevor consistently go for roams. JJ will need to find a way to answer or just continue to harass this bottom lane with Minui. But that also starts to be where we talked so much about these two supports and how much influence they have on the teams. I think Trevor getting out of the map is something that Supernova are very happy about.
Fear not actually going to go for any sort of dive. Instead, everyone's going to go back to their side of the map. I like that Supernova are looking, though, like you said, Trevor getting across the map. Pretty big deal here to help set up some of this vision that, of course, is being cleared out. Again, we're keeping an eye on Music and what he's able to secure. As Shochi gets the itemization coming through here, it's looking like the Everfrost. He will have that extra bit of health, that extra bit of lockdown. It will be a little harder to burst him down. Oh, what happened here?
Whoa, we just missed an entire kill on bottom side. Minui, he got that ignite, but got the kill on the Sketch.
Okay. That's what I like to see. Maybe we'll get a replay, maybe we won't, but well played here from Minui. Had a shaky week one, but he's a player who last split, he was definitely the most improved out of any player we saw in spring, and a player who we honestly didn't think have much left in the tank as far as players in the tier 2 scene go, but he proved us wrong. He silenced us, and we were happy to take it, as he's now continuing to show us some of that with a solo kill like that.
And we see actually the Rift Herald started by Supernova with a bit of that priority on top side since they brought over Trevor. First tower goes over to bot side, and we do get a replay of that one.
Nice. Featherstorm on cooldown. Remember, Minui, oh yeah, he likes his chances here. He's just gonna As Mark would say, bring out the double glizzies. And he just knocks Sketch off
Those
the
are
map.
hot dogs, beat.
I know. And I do very much like hot dogs.
Oh, yeah, hot dogs, give or take.
Really?
Speaking of taking, though, look who's taking all the gold. It's Fear with a couple good capitalizations, sitting at about 1.7k gold lead right now.
They are going to answer back, get some of it into their pocket. Supernova getting that turret, and I like that they rotated Robbie Bob, the one able to pick it up. We saw with that gold graph coming through here that he is on the upper end of the board in terms of gold compared to other players on the map right now. So it is nice, as this Syndra will also be a point of power. Oh, Manui. Whoa!
Nice little flank there from Shochi. Cast goes out. Actually gets them kind of where they wanted to go, but as we see, the dragon was taken. A Infernal Soul takes to the Rift, but 2 dragons stacked up for Fear, and they were pressing on mid lane. You got Unstoppable Onslaught coming through, but it goes a little bit wide. They still get the engage because they have that single target CC. Look at it! But the Lambs are spied saves today, and you got the TP coming back from Philip. Philip could be a game changer. One goes down already, and Philip is immune under tower as the zombie mode Quacker just has to watch as 2 members of Supernova go down. You got Robbie Bob trying to make something happen on Manui, but they will continue to push this lead.
Yeah, no ultimates left on either side. Manui's going to be able to happily walk away with another kill that he picked up in that fight. So Supernova fighting off a little more than they could chew. Should have been happy with just stopping the mid-tier 1 from going down, but they wanted a little bit more, and it almost worked. Now they find themselves deeper in the hole. We're seeing Manui maybe able to pick up that Guild Force once he goes back, and that's going to be huge for this Lucian. We're going to see the replay again. You get them off the turret, which is good, and like I was talking about, Shochi is that member who, now that he's got the Mythic, is kind of tanky, plus Perry can keep him alive with the ult. And you just see the amount of damage they're able to do on the backswing. Music has to flash, dies anyway, and that kill goes over to Perry. This is a really good fight for Fear.
Power Unleashed going on to Shochi as he's Lambs Respited. Feels bad as well. Just not that single target damage. You need to be able to find it. You need to get those kills off. And that's going to be a question for Supernova to find execution on. We're going to see them find execution here. They're TPing deep as Quacker has that ulti back up and maybe looking to aggress with the rest of Supernova. Yep, they're just going for it. Pull that trigger. As Shochi, he's that focus yet again. They just really want this man. That's 2 fights in a row that they just gave their lives up to try to get him. Come at me, bro.
I told you, Shochi, he's too tanky. He can't be the target, especially when you're behind, like Supernova is. They all in, his passive plus Milio, he's back to more than half of his max health. And it means that Manui and the rest of Fear can just wait for this next wave and take out the mid-tier 1 turret. And oh, Fear's making another play. Robbie Bob.
Yo, Shochi is looking at this pretty nicely here in the game so far. Robbie Bob not looking at this so nicely, as he should just go down, and that is a kill to fill up, a second one for him, and a really nice pick out as Fear have run away with this early lead.
They have. They're playing the map really well, using their advantages to just continue snowballing here. Cincinnati Fear find themselves up 3k up before the 20-minute mark. One more play like that, and it could earn them the Baron. Shochi and the rest of Fear showing us why he has so much confidence in them, as Music will at least be able to get something back with the Rift Herald.
I got a question though, man. Like, is it mental diff right now? Like, is Shochi pulling all their hairs and making them want to take him out? Because that was 2 fights in a row. They just all in on a tanky member on a Gragas instead of going for the double marksman ADC composition. But you do still see that fight back provided by Supernova and Music's go button.
Yeah, and when I say something, I really meant 1 turret, you know, a couple hundred gold into Music's pocket. That's kind of cool, right? We like gold, right, guys? Yeah. Cool. 3k up. No. Just put your hand over Fear's gold numbers, and you'll see that Supernova's gold went up. It's great. Everything's fine. Oh, no, not the I only have 2 hands. I can't cover all this.
Oh no, about 2,000 gold up is Manui over Sketch. Even though Sketch had actually gotten some nice resources early on, it is still the power combo of this Lucian that looks to press down early. And 4-0 with 2 items already under tow is a pretty good starting place for Manui. And I know you had some thoughts on Manui coming into this over these first 2 weeks and looking at his progress through or maybe just some of that consistent.
Yeah, and the fact is, week 1 wasn't the best start, but Fear, they had a lot that they were working on with the inclusion of new members, especially JJ, who took a break from competitive play. I think Perry even said that he was on a trip abroad when he had agreed to join the team. Perry just hit him up. So, my point is that Manui, rough week 1 along with the rest of his team, but had really picked it up here in week 2 and is looking great in this game. To be fair, if we're being fair, Lucian Milio is disgusting, filthy, horrifically broken.
But there's so many of that now in League of Legends.
No.
When do we stop?
Lennon, when we talk about bot lanes, this is the best bot lane. Premier, it's not close, so we got to be a little real with it. But Manui is still playing well. He had a great Xayah game yesterday, and my point is, he's doing good.
It's chunked pretty heavy there, but able to get some back. Nice re-engage though for Supernova. This is an unmanned fight by Fear, and they just immediately lose Perry. Couldn't even use the limb. Just fight. You got Philip coming behind with a double TP from Shochi as well. They want to try to find the big combo. Cast comes through. This is really rough. Quacker is still there, super tanky, as Manui had made it out with his life. The rest of Fear force Supernova back. They will go for this dragon, but mid-prio will be given to Fear.
Yeah, this was a good catch out there. This is what I'm talking about. All in, somebody not named Shochi. They get Perry, they CC chain him beautifully, so he's not able to drop the Lamb's Respite. So Fear are going to take what they can on the top side, clear vision, and I'm looking at Philip to take this top tier 1 turret, get some gold back in. But Supernova, they do earn themselves a little bit of a reprieve. They slow the dragon stacking that was coming through. Infernal Soul Point would have been a very hard map state for them to play for if Fear had gotten it.
I think the little bit of fight back is coming alive here. It was the decision making, that single target focus we'd highlighted so much, but also the leadership from Trevor. And since we've seen it about like post 15 minutes, the connection is constant. And you know, you never know comms. Obviously, everybody saying that they all take turns kind of speaking when I got to talk to Robbie Bob, but Trevor and Music have been the ones that have been going forward every single time. In these moments where you're like, oh, we got downtime, we got some time. No, we don't, because they're just moving forward. Sketch, he's caught out, though.
Yeah, I mean, your top laner was just bought, mid lane coming in, you see them as a group. That's an illegal move. I'm going to be real. And he gets punished for it, arrested by the position police. Cincinnati Fear will take their prize, and that's control over this top side jungle and more farm for Manui on this Lucian. Teleport coming in.
Cask! Oh, that's huge. Perry has so much damage. The power unleash comes through. The healing from Trevor. It wasn't enough, though. As Music comes in on the back end, the Lamb's Respite is popped. So you do have that healing, and under tower goes Fear. Needlework from a distance as he pulls his cool glasses out of his pocket.
Philip doing a little bit of a Steph Curry there from downtown. That last proc of the needlework gets the kill that earns Fear a shot at the Baron. And it's not at 20 minutes, but it's a snowball nonetheless. Supernova can't let this go. This could be the end of game 1 if they let this amount of gold go into Fear's pockets.
Fear just chasing down Music. He's trying to go back in, but the double re-engage from the Grand Entrance doesn't matter. The damage has already gone down, and now everybody is falling one by one for Supernova. Sketch looking for it on a Barry. It's a last-ditch effort that's going to go nowhere, and Perry gets another kill.
Nowhere fast, as now it just means even more pressure on the map for Cincinnati Fear. They have the Baron. Perry can steal away camps. They have 3 stopwatches, and they still haven't even used them in this last fight. And they're up 9k, something I want very clear. Manui had so much gold. He was sitting on the mythic, or the components for the Lord Doms. He bought Lord Doms full and a stopwatch. Look at that. Look at that.
That's a lot of gold, man. That's a lot of gold.
Them some heavy pockets. I don't know how he's dashing all around the place, but he's making it work.
Because he's got a little campfire buddy right there next to him.
Oh, you're right. Cozy campfire gives your like strength to dash.
Almost 10,000 gold lead, just hovering under that 9,000 here for them. But it's a strong showing for Fear against a former, beloved teammate in Trevor.
Yeah.
And I think that overall, holistically, for this matchup is the most interesting thing is how do each side look coming into this when we've seen a bit of separation, some different trajectories, and now we're seeing a little bit of that preemptive engage come through from Supernova. They're actually able to find a decent amount of backline access. Trevor is dip, dive, and dodging, but music is already gone. And that is the gold wallet being slammed into the face of Supernova.
Ooh, Philip, yeah, I think this is going to be it. We're getting close to the end here. We got 30, 40-second spawn timers and a Baron for another minute 20. Fear put their stamp on game one with a borderline ace, the only one left being their former teammate Trevor.
As Fear put down these last couple turrets, Trevor faces his old friends, his old Reapers in the Fear combo. He won't give them one more kill. Willie goes golden, but the Nexus goes down. They want it. They want to take him down. And for Fear itself, Fear take game one.
And what a convincing game one it was, Lennon. We've been seeing these little inklings here from Cincinnati Fear. In hindsight, that second game against TLC where they kept it close for 20 minutes, a team who is far and above the standings compared to everyone else should have been a sign of what's to come here. And that is that Cincinnati Fear from spring, they might be back.
He might be back. We're going to have to break down that game and get to our Rally Cry halftime show after a short little break, so don't go anywhere.